Give all glory and honor and praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakadash. Double honors to the elders, apostles, great millstone who rule well, teaching this 100% truth. Shalom to the hopeful elect, beginning with 144,000, the rest of the men, women, and children. Shalom, I'm your brother Magan Shalomar. We're going to get right into this video, how America is starting to make her allies her enemy. So this video is for education purposes only, no monetary gain, fair use.
Every country now understands that the United States has changed. It is not going to administer an empire of the whole world, keeping the peace and having everyone rely on it doing that. It is just like Mr. Trump sometimes says, we're throwing all of that out the window. We are now going to weaponize our remaining assets. We're no longer the biggest economic bloc in the world. That's China and the BRICS. But we're big enough that we can threaten and weaponize and force the rest of the world to give us a portion of its wealth. You know what that means beyond a change of the last 50 years economic policy? It means the United States is advertising itself as the new #1 rogue nation in this world. Even China, Japan, and South Korea announced they're getting together. Those three countries have a history of tension and conflict and bitterness. All of that was put aside. They're meeting together, and I quote, to coordinate their response to Mr. Trump. Europe, who could never unify and therefore gave up the ghost as an economic powerhouse when they were allied with the United States, may, by result of Mr. Trump, be able to unify against the United States.
So you see, all these nations are starting to become angry with America. They saying Donald Trump, but you know, at the end of the day, they look at Donald Trump as America. So not just Donald Trump, that's all of America. You know, they're hating, they're starting to hate the whore. Get a quick scripture here. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 51, verse 7. Babylon had been a golden cup in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nation have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. You see? So the wine represents America's philosophies. You know, that's her fornication. That's the spiritual fornication that she has in that cup. Her philosophies, her rules, her laws, her architect, the way they build, you know, the promoting homosexuality, all of these things that America pushed out on these other nations, you know, feminisms, you know, all of this they pushed out on these other nations, when at first those nations wasn't a part of that. They wasn't about that in their culture, but they took it upon America's culture, and now they're starting to get mad. And that's what we're seeing now. This Edomite is talking about how America has become the enemy of these other nations.
Trump be able to unify against the United States. I admit, it's a long shot. Disunity in Europe is intrinsic to that poor continent. But that's the reality. No one should be fooled. The isolation of the United States is what we are watching big time. Mr. Trump's herky-jerky behavior, the Canada-Mexico tariff, go up, then it goes down, then it is modified, then it is adjusted. And now we are told that he's willing to negotiate with all of the other tariff victims to get this from this one, to get that from the... Here's what that means. It means that none of these tariffs are a certainty. No planning corporation can say, okay, this is the new level of expenses I have with the tariff being what it is. So I'm going to compare when I decide where to build my next factory, all my options. It can't do that. because the tariff that he's counting may not be there next month, may not be there next year. In which case, the enormous expense. That's why it's so important what Michael just said. It takes years and a lot of money to move a production facility from one place to another, or to reorganize your supply chain, because instead of building in this country over the next 10 years as you had planned, you're going to have to move your new factories, and that means you have to rearrange your supply line. All of that is enormously expensive. No corporation is going to undertake those expenses only to discover, after having spent $2 billion, that the $5 billion project is now to be abandoned because the tariffs were changed on you.
So he's going to go into, now he's going to go into how America plans to get that money. As they always done, they use the political system for the rich to stay rich and the poor to stay poor.
Invest the money. They're the ones who set the prices we pay, and they're the ones who pay the wages or not that we depend on. So we are controlled by the 3% of the employer. That's the way capitalism is set up, okay? They long ago understood, the people at the top, what they have to do, because we have a political system that is a little odd to go with a top-down economic system. In our political system, we have universal suffrage. Everybody gets one vote. Well, the vast majority of people, 97%, are not employers. 3% are. It would be easy to mobilize a majority of the 97% to limit the wealth of the 3%. In fact, you would expect that to happen, because the 3% are the ones with all the money, and the 97% are the ones who control the majority in the voting. The ruling class of 3% do in America. They bought the government, of course. That's how they protect their situation in a world of universal suffrage.
You see that? Let me play that again. This is how they do it.
System that is a little odd to go with a top-down economic system. In our political system, we have universal suffrage. Everybody gets one vote. Well, the vast majority of people, 97%, are not employers. 3% are. It would be easy to mobilize a majority of the 97% to limit the wealth of the 3%. In fact, you would expect that to happen, because the 3% are the ones with all the money, and the 97% are the ones who control the majority in the voting. The ruling class of 3% do in America. They bought the government, of course. That's how they protect their situation in a world of universal suffrage. And how did they do it? They did it with two political parties. Each of them depends on the 3% for 3% do in America. They bought the government, of course. That's how they protect their situation in a world of universal suffrage. And how did they do it? They did it with two political
parties. They bought it. That's why America is known as the ancient Roman Empire, because America is modeled itself from the ancient Roman Empire. Just like you see the Republicans there and the Democrat, and in the ancient Roman Empire, they had the plebeians and the patricians. The same setup. And as you see, we have the president being elected every 4 years. Well, over there, they had a Caesar that was elected every 7 years, I believe. You know, and they had two houses, the Senate, just like America has two houses, the Senate and the Senate, right? And the Democrats inside the Senate. So this is why America is known as the ancient Roman Empire, and that's what Revelation chapter 13 Revelation, the whole chapter 13 goes into. And it's very important to understand that chapter, because Great Millstone breaks it down perfectly, that no other Israelite group that's out here, or definitely not no so-called Christian church, they can't even go into the prophecies. And so Revelation 13 verse 11 tells you right here, it says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and it had two horns like a lamb, and spake as a dragon. And that beast that's coming up is talking about America. America is the new reincarnated ancient Roman Empire, right? And the two horns like a lamb is showing you that it is operated by two different systems, the Republican and the Democrats. And the reason why it looks like a lamb, because they speak. You know, they give you all this fancy and nice speech of what they're going to do. They're going to lower the taxes. They're going to bring out peace. They're going to, you know, stop wars, and we're going to decrease the taxes and increase the taxes for the richest. But as this man just showing you in that video, they are paid to do the opposite, right? And he spake as a dragon, because what he actually does, what they do once they're in office, is they do the opposite. They do everything that's not beneficial for the so-called Americans. And you know who's on the bottom of that is the Israelites, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. That's why this man got to be put to death, right? So this is how we know that through this beast system here is talking about the revival. Chapter 13 is talking about basically talking about the revival of the ancient Roman Empire, and that system is going to bring about the mark of the beast. Verse 16 it says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive the mark in his right hand or in his forehead. And we know that mark is the karak, the charagma, right? It means that it's going to be a sharp instrument. The palisade is going to break the skin and impel the skin. Is going to push in that chip, the RFID chip. Because if you don't get it, this is what's going to happen. That no man might buy or sell, say if he have that mark or the name of the beast, or the number of his the number of his name, right? And he hears the wisdom. Let him that have understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So if that's what they're pushing now. They're pushing for this new world order. That's the worship of the beast, is that new world order. If you're not with that new world order, then you know you're gonna be either killed. You just see that in verse 15. You should be killed. You're not gonna be able to operate in this system. And do not take that mark. Do not take that mark of the beast, man. Do not take that RFID chip, that micro C hip. Do not take it. So with that, I'm gonna say Shalom, Kal Halal, Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shah Ba'Shem, Makar HaKadosh. I hope you was edified. Shalom.